Part 2 in Chapter 1, I Give Up. Norman Vincent Peale said, "It's always too soon to quit." And it takes great courage to give up on something you depend on. Maybe you think you can continue that bad habit for a few more years and that it is still too soon to change direction. But if you don't take action, nothing will change and you will be on a sure path to self-destruction. Giving up is often seen as a bad thing in realms of life and of society. It is, though, in terms of behavioral problem, people give up on jobs, give up on school, give up on marriage, and these usually aren't thought of as positive actions because they represent going back to square one. But if you're struggling with an addiction, you need to give up. In this case, it represents a different kind of positive action. When looked from a long-term perspective, addicts are suicidal. And there are two forms of suicide, physical and emotional. Both involve a certain degree of pain. However, the first one, physical, leads to death, while the second one, emotional, originates in unhealthy relationships. We all need validation in life. Children need validation from their parents by way of encouragement and words of approval, and the majority of people in our society are raised in divided and dysfunctional homes, often with an absent father. Without validation from a father, addictions can become a substitute for those emotions. In other words, believing we're not loved leads to addictions. If you feel you are not genuinely loved, the need for replacement substances will deepen as you look for something that will trigger a release of chemicals in your brain and give you the feeling of pleasure that drugs and addiction provide. Imagine taking a bubble bath and then pulling the plug to empty the tub. When the water starts to drain, you don't even perceive that the level is going down. But when there's not much water left, you can see the water spiraling into the drain. The drain starts to gurgle, sucking in the foam and everything else with it. The same thing happens with the life of an addict. The addict, it's slowly flushing everything, eventually leading to a quick death. The way to plug your life is to mend the hole caused by your addiction and refill with fresh water. In order to do this, you need to give up on your current life and start fresh. That's what I did. Let me tell you how I gave up on my lifestyle and I was able to start a fresh new life. I was born in Lisbon, Portugal, a country ruled by a Nazi-style dictatorship that took great pride in the so-called purity of the white race, and where Coca-Cola and rock music were banned and forbidden. But growing up in a big city was exciting. My country was undergoing a revolution. When I was 14, more than 40 years of fascist regime ended in one day. Portugal was suddenly free from its big brother dictatorship, and everything changed overnight. Millions of people fled to the streets experimenting their newfound freedom. The once proud Portuguese colonial empire was broken into pieces, and new independent countries were formed in Africa. The second largest army in the African continent was dissolved, and hundreds of thousands of refugees fled Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau, and other new independent countries after almost 600 years of Portuguese colonization. The return, as they were called, left a fortune, wealth, and in many cases the only place they have ever known, taking with them just a few personal items. They were allowed to bring their belongings in boat containers, so many people packed those containers with tons of high-quality African marijuana and other drugs. Although we were suddenly free of the oppressive fascist regime, many of us were lost in the social turmoil that ensued. My generation was destroyed by the excessive freedom and easy access to drugs that marked a new way of life. I became a hippie, an anarchist, a rebel, a drug addict in a permissive society where we could trade and consume drugs freely with almost no police surveillance. By the age of 24, I had already been addicted to heroin for 7 long years. If you have an addiction or you know someone with an addiction and you want to help them, please subscribe to my page on Patreon. There, I'll have the full chapters. I'll have also webinars and other resources to help people to overcome any addiction. Just click below and follow me on Patreon. Also, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please click below to like and subscribe. You can also click the bell ring next to subscribe so you'll be notified of my next video. Thank you.